Welcome back to Confidently Cherished. And today I want to talk to you about why your priorities are all sorts of screwed up when it comes to dating and how it's holding you back from truly finding the right partner for you. Finding that, I kind of hate saying high value in the wake of the Kevin Samuel's disciples and all that, but truly find someone who is really high value and truly find someone who you feel aligned with. So before I get into that, I do want to apologize because I know that I straight up disappeared on you guys for a couple of weeks. And the reason why is because, my world it became a cluster for a little bit. I had COVID and I had this whole trip to London planned, and I felt so happy and so blessed that I tested negative just in time to take my trip. So I take my trip and everything I think is okay. I'm a little slower because, I was recovering from COVID. But other than that, trip's going well. And on the last day of it, I kid you not, I was so sick. I ended up having to make a trip to the hospital before I made a trip to the airport to catch my flight back. So that carried on for a little while. So even after I got back from my trip, no, I was not recording episodes or being very active on social media or any of that. So I want you to know that I love you guys, and no, I didn't quit or leave or abandon you. I also had a whole thing with my Facebook account being hacked that I'm still dealing with, but I wanted you to know that you've been on my mind this entire time. I promise. When I was growing up, people in my church used to always say to charge things to their heads, not their hearts. Charge this to my body deciding that it just did not want to let me be great. So that being said, let's get back into priorities. And, I also wanted to tell you why I've been gone, because during all the time that I spent sick and in bed, I had plenty of time to think about priorities. My priorities, what's really important to me, and what should be important to you when you are out here looking for your right partner, especially because, I spend a fair amount of time scrolling social media because there's not much you can do when you're in bed. And in that process, we've talked about hypergamy on this podcast so many times before. So you know that I have mixed feelings about it. But also I feel like so many women are led astray when all of this talk of hypergamy comes up, because there's so much on social media that seems beautiful and flashy and perfect. And life is not that way. If you're looking at your own life and you're like, my life is not flashy and beautiful and perfect and Instagram worthy, I can assure you that no one's life is like that. I can promise you that. It's not just you. So I think it's really important that we talk about, yes, I want you to prosper. I want you to do well. I want you to be loved and cherished and cared for and provided for. But I also want you to be realistic. And I want to set you up for success and not failure. So I think it's important that we really talk about these. And I am going to attempt to keep this episode short because, just being real with you, I'm still recovering. So I don't have a lot of energy, but I want to give you 3 ways in which your priorities are wrong. Number 1 is wanting, expecting, wishing that your life will be like what you see on Instagram. What I mean by this is I can't tell you how many times I have seen a video on Instagram that is, a couple's page. So they're dancing or they're doing something funny or, they're talking about their love story, whatever it is. And the comment section is, must be nice. Can't wait till I have that. I want that one day. And here's the thing. On one hand, I do, in fact, tell my clients that they should fill their feeds with the type of relationship that they want. And that includes some of these couples pages. I tell them that they should fill their feed with positivity and not negativity. So again, that includes these couples pages. At the same time, I need you to look at those with a realistic eye. Some of these couples are truly in it for clout, and they will break up. And because of that, you can use these pages as an example. So you can say, when you see these funny videos, for example, I really want a man who has a great sense of humor and who he and I are going to laugh often together. Like, that is a great way to make use of these pages, but don't turn the individual couples into a hero worship situation. Also know that you can have fun times with your partner without it looking like these pages. I'll admit, when a lot of this stuff started taking off, I got a little caught up in it myself. And because of that, my husband and I filmed some of these videos, right? And if you go to my Instagram or if you go to my TikTok, shameless plug at Keisha Rice, you will not see a single one of those videos. You know why? Because we thought they were corny. We deleted most of them. There are a couple that we have held on to, and they are a joke between us. We've just decided that not everything needs to be published. If you look at my TikTok and if you look at my Instagram, you will see that as far as my husband goes, he will make a special appearance on my feed for 3-4 posts, and then you won't see him for another 20 posts. And it's not that, well, he is a private person, so there is that consideration that I try not to ever pressure him into feeling like he needs to show up on my social media, feeling like he needs to record videos with me. But also, to be honest, there are a lot of times where he and I will get together and he's like, I know you're a dating coach. Because you're a dating coach, people want to see that you're in a happy relationship. Let's take some pictures together. Let's do some selfies or whatever. And you can post those on social media. And I'll say, sure. And we'll take the pictures and we'll look through them and we'll laugh and smile. And I'll be like, you know what? I just kind of want to keep these to myself. So I say all that to say that not just me, but in general, most people in really happy relationships, most people who are truly enjoying their marriages are not the ones who are posting on social media. And it could be because they're private, but also, you get caught up in the moments of actually enjoying your relationship. You're not thinking to take pictures. So your priorities are wrong if you think that is what life is like. That people that you're going to get into this great relationship, and it's all of a sudden going to be like you sharing all these memories with your family and friends, as far as like posting it all on social media all the time. Maybe, but if you're dating someone and they don't want to become a couples page, it doesn't mean that he's wrong for you, or it doesn't mean that, he doesn't care about you, or he doesn't want to shout you to the world. There are people who are just private. There are people who are just very, very committed to living their life off social media. So enjoy those types of things. Get concrete ideas on what you want in a relationship. Not that you want to go viral or anything like that. But again, what I said about sense of humor, or if you see a couple who talks a lot about like their love story and how they got together and all that, you may look at that and say, I want somebody who is really great at communication, and I want someone who is articulate, is vulnerable, has no problem sharing their feelings. Like, you can take those things from social media, but don't necessarily take the idea that like you're going to get with someone is going to be shenanigans that go viral on TikTok all the time. Most relationships simply aren't like that. So number two is realistic expectations, which I guess goes into the very first point that I made. But what I mean by that is, because of the whole hypergamy movement on social media, I have seen women straight clown men because they aren't millionaires. And one, boo, are you a millionaire yourself? Ask that question before we go even further. But here's the thing. I live in the United States. The average salary for a man in the United States is, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this number, but I know for a fact that it's less than $50,000 a year. It's like in the low 40s. That's what the average man in the United States makes. So just sheer numbers, most women out here are not marrying millionaires because from a numbers standpoint, it's impossible, right? So if you're out here clowning men because they don't make $1 million, there's a few things that you need to consider. One, if you want a man who is very rich, and wealth is relative. So when I say a man who is rich, you can define what that means to you. I will say in the past, when I dated men who were wealthier, the wealthiest men I've ever dated were like baby millionaires. So you know what I mean? Like net worth 2, 3, 4 million, right? In the low numbers. So you can decide what rich is for you. That could be millions, that could be 6 figures, whatever. But the average person, male or woman, who becomes a millionaire in this country becomes that way through like retirement savings and stuff. So most of them don't become millionaires until they're in their 50s and 60s. So if you are a woman in your 20s or 30s, then I'm not saying that you can't find rich men, that you can't find wealthy men. But one, there's a good chance they're going to be older, even if they're not 50 or 60. If you're 22 and you're looking for a man who's wealthy, you're probably going to at least be dating men in their 30s. So like the men your age, most of them aren't wealthy. The ones who are typically trash because it's typically inherited wealth, and they are spoiled brats. Just keeping it 100 with you, right? So instead of being that woman who is like yeah, I make $30,000 a year, but I expect a man to make 100 or 200,000, because I hold a double standard like that. If you want to be wealthy, you want to live a wealthy lifestyle, I don't blame you for that. Like, in fact, I applaud you for that. You deserve to level up in your lifetime. Anything that you do that, makes your generation better, more stable than the previous generation is a good thing. So I'm not slamming that. But you need to get clear about wealth, living that type of lifestyle, having those goals is not what you see on, back to my first point, is not what you see on like the Real Housewives. Like, yes, they have money, but they also have certain personalities that are made for TV. Most people that truly have money, that are truly rich, don't walk around wearing a bunch of designer clothes. So, like, if you're with a man who's doing that and he's constantly flashing his money with his designer clothes and his fancy cars, that's not a green light. That's a red flag. Most men I know that have a lot of money drive crappy cars. Now, if they're married, their wife drives a nice car. The wife always has a Porsche or Lexus or Mercedes or a BMW, something like that. But they typically drive trashy cars. They typically don't wear designer clothes. They're typically not flashy at all. So when you're running into men who do that, first of all, there's a difference between a man who spends money and a man who spends money on you. So if you're dealing with a man who is always flashing his cash but can't help you pay your water bill, he's never going to be generous. It's not going to be a thing like you get married and then all of a sudden the floodgates open. If you do manage to marry this man, he will be stingy your entire marriage too. But also, he's probably not as real rich as he puts on. There are men who come into money because they get like jobs in tech or whatever, and they have money for a while, but they don't hold on to it. That's not what you want. You want to be able to create generational wealth. So first of all, get out of your head that being rich is a Real Housewives of Dubai or Beverly Hills or Atlanta fantasy. Like, those are specific women who are made for TV. That's probably not what you're going to have. Not saying you can't have that if you want to, but talking about priorities, most rich people have priorities that are other than those things. They live quiet lives, spending time with their friends, their family. They don't care about if their lives are boring because their lives are not being filmed all the time, right? So have those realistic expectations and know that, actually, this is point number 3. Point number 3 is future versus track record, because I know that's the question that some of you are thinking right now. Like, hey, you're saying most of these men that we're going to meet aren't going to be wealthy, aren't wealthy when we meet them, aren't millionaires when we meet them. So how do I find a man who is going to be wealthy, who has that potential? And this comes down to not future faking, because you can be with someone, again, who has money at the moment or is able to fake that lifestyle because he's like, like one of the Tinder swindler types. He managed to get it from somebody else. You can have someone who's like that, and that money will be gone as quickly as it came. If you truly want to be with a man who has means, who has wealth, who's going to take care of you, who's going to provide for you, then you don't need to listen to him talk about the future. You don't need to listen to him talk about his big plans, how he's going to be an entrepreneur, I'm sorry, I'm in Atlanta where everyone is an entrepreneur, and I mean everyone. Like that's the only job that apparently exists in this town. So, you don't need to listen to all his future plans about like how he's going to do that. Nothing wrong with him talking about that. Nothing wrong with him with seeing that he has ambition, but ambition means nothing if there isn't also hard work and consistency and effort, right? So instead of focusing on the future that someone paints for you, focus on track record. So you're with a man and he's talking about how he has all of these plans and he's talking about his goals in 5 years, 10 years. Ask the question, what were your goals 5 years ago? And what did you do to accomplish those goals? Because that tells you whether or not he is capable of being the man that you want. Like, again, especially if you are in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, there's a good chance that your husband, if you meet him today, is not exactly where you want him to be. And that's fine as long as he's also not a dusty, right? Like, so you want to ask, hey, what were your goals in high school? Did you accomplish them? What were your goals in college? Did you accomplish them? What did you say you were going to do 5 years ago? Have you done that yet? So you want to hear that he wanted to be, I don't know, captain of the debate team, and he managed to do it. You want to hear that he wanted to get a job at a certain company, and he did it. You want to hear that he had an income goal for what he wanted to be making by the time he was turning 25, and he did it. You want to hear that these things were accomplished, because if he's done it before, he can do it again. So he may not be a millionaire now. He may be a 50 or 60,000-aire right now. But you know that he has a track record of having accomplished his goals. So therefore he can get to that millionaire status, right? You want to know that he knows what it means to be consistent, to work hard towards something. And you want to know that he has the ingredients in place. So I hate to say the idea of dating someone for potential, because I don't want you to date for potential in the sense that someone is completely dusty, has nothing going on for them, has no social support, no circle to help get them there, and they're telling you they're going to be all able to do all these things. But what I mean by they need to have the right potential is someone says they want to be an entrepreneur, it's kind of helpful if like they went to college and they took business classes. They, took accounting classes. They majored in something that's going to help them with the industry that they're in. Somebody says that they want to start a business. And like I said, I use that because Atlanta's full of wannabe entrepreneurs. Then you want to know that they've actually researched that industry. They know what the success rate is. They have ideas for how they're going to combat the pitfalls in that industry. They're not just like, oh, this sounds cool, therefore I want to do it. If someone wants to go into esports, they know who the big players in the game are. They've researched things like how to get sponsorships. They've actually done their homework. It is important that if a man tells you that he plans to do all these things, that he's actually done some planning, right? He's not just dreaming. He's planning. You know, he knows conversion rates. So if you don't have those things, then you don't have potential. You have wishes. You have hopes and dreams. And those are great in Disney movies. They just don't work out very well in real life. So again, these are the 3 ways in which your priorities may be screwed up. It is understanding that planning your life for real life instead of for Instagram is more important. It is understanding that the way wealth works, the way, not just wealth. I mean, I know I use that a lot this entire podcast episode, but at the same time, like, this applies to emotional intelligence and health and being a man who's a romantic. It applies to all those things too. You know, we tend to do money because it's the easy one to go. It's the one that's easier to picture and be visual, but like, it applies to all other areas of your life too. But yes, it is understanding that sometimes you need to take some time outside of Instagram and really focus on what you want your real and everyday life to look like and what your priorities really should be. It is number 2, having realistic expectations of what your partner can do for you. And number 3, it is understanding that planning for the future means absolutely nothing if you are not checking your potential partner's track record. Track record blows potential out of the water. Consistency, hard work, effort, a history of putting in effort, those matter more than anything else. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really, truly missed you. Please keep your fingers crossed, say your prayers that we do not have another episode like what I've been dealing with for the past few weeks. Because I miss you and I love you, and I talk about consistency. I want to consistently be here for you. So don't forget, head over to Instagram at Keisha Rice, KESHIARICE. Let me know what you think of this episode. And again, I love you. And even for this episode, I'm happy to be back. I will talk to you soon. Love you so much. Bye. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have 2 things to say. 1, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And 2, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeishaRice.com/links. That's KESHIARICE.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.